Good afternoon, everyone. UK unleaded and diesel fuel shortages, petrol stations shutting down. There'll have to be a scapegoat. Enter Russia. Europe is at risk of life this winter if Russia doesn't give the gas. It's all their fault. UK natural gas futures spiking. PVC prices record high. Home building hit yet again. Number of bubbles collapsing. Housingbubble.com bubble. Everything bubble, and it still goes up when it crashes. Oh my. So when you see signs like this at the Dollar General, emergency supplies, perhaps that's a distant early warning for everybody visible from sidewalks. All of this Biden inflation tax talk, what's it really about? And more importantly, what's the actual effect of inflation on the lives of real people? Joe Biden claims that it's indisputable that his jobs plan is working. This data unequivocally shows that it's not. Well, at least for American workers. Rather, inflation is surging, and more than wiping out any wage gains these workers might have experienced. And historically, when inflation spikes, commodities like gold, silver, lumber, and real estate surge. Learn how simple it is to add physical gold and silver to your portfolio ahead of the rise in inflation and predicted price rises. Patriot Gold Group has the no-fee-for-life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the no-fee-for-life IRA. Call 1-800-356-4470 and get a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. And we're going to jump right over here to the UK. British Petroleum says temporary closing UK sites due to unleaded and diesel fuel shortages. Now they're saying that it's a lack of drivers and logistics, personnel, labor shortages, etc. Rinse and repeat on the causation. So what happens when there's no petrol left in your stations? You can only drive so far and then you're out. And natural gas coming into the winter looks like it's going to be an exceptionally cold winter. If it follows down on the southern hemisphere, it's going to be incredibly cold this year. UK natural gas futures spiking at the same time as the liquid fuel shortages. Food not available on the shelves. And it looks like the UK is in a downward spiral feedback loop at the moment. And right off of Gas Watch, you know, an enormous amount of pressure was put to stop the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, economic sanctions. But now what I find so amazing is the fingers got to point at Russia, because Russia's going to be the one that's going to cause all the natural gas shortages in the EU. U.S. Energy Advisor warning Europe is at risk of life this winter. The continent's already at a season of low gas reserves. And I love how they use the word potentially diminished supply. Yet the whole crux of the articles is diminished supply, record high pricing. It's all because Russia won't sell it. And I look at this statement here in the second paragraph in blue. Russia has a shortage of supply to the market compared to traditional supply. So what are you telling me? That Russia's not selling as much cubic meter or cubic feet, however you like to measure it, into the market as they traditionally would? I mean, does it always have to scapegoat default back to Russia? How many more cycles in the wash can this thing take before the threads start to fray apart? Oh, if it's a really cold winter by January and February, we may run out of gas supplies. You know whose fault that's going to be? Oh, no, don't blame the sanctions and the closing of pipelines and different routes to get gas to your place. No, don't think about that. It's all because of one country. Commodity price squeeze. LNG on the world market, incredible prices, spiking. Then we've got the European gas debacle, liquids and natural gas. Plus the power, you know, Germany's firing back up coal power plants because they can't rely on the renewables to provide enough power. Plastic, PVC spiking, lumber's coming down a sliver, coal's back up, aluminum's hitting the record price territory. And this polyvinyl chloride, this PVC pipes for construction, record high. Again, if they're going to drop the lumber price, something else has to go up. The pinch needs to continue. Home building costs soar. $1,900 per metric ton. 30% since June. But you saw that record spike in lumber prices. People couldn't handle that, and that has diminished, yet it's been replaced with something else, PVC. And it seems like it's this shell game of pressure on until there's enough resistance in society. That pressure is removed and it suddenly shifts to something else. And it's like this cat and mouse of pressure release game that we're seeing. So when you're walking along the street and you see the Dollar General store has a sign for emergency supplies out in that front window, that should make you shake your head. Why are they putting that and claiming it as emergency supplies? See, this is the distant early warning that you were warned about things, but you didn't take it and heed what was in front of your eyes. So when I see this coming out the Dollar General, go for the Energizer Bunny batteries. Those are the best ones. Get your canned food. Get your preps ready, because when Dollar General's warning you, it's down to the base level of society. Everybody should understand by this point is the last distant early warning. It's gone out through every thread of society. And if we look at the S&P from 1870 to 2021, we're going to look at these massive spikes, and you'll see when there's a spike, it's followed by a correction, spike, correction, positive territory, negative territory. But, back in the 1870 to, say, 1900 era, it was just a consistent up and down, crash, boom, crash, boom. And then we come into what was considered the crash of the crashes in 28, 29, 30, I think through 1933, and then it recovers. Conflict begins, and then, wow, magically, valuations increase, and then there's another collapse, and then we got the dot-com bubble, the 2009 energy commodities supercycle bubble, and then we are at the end, at the highest point ever in the last 150 years. So the crash should be at least as epic as a once in 150 year market correction, minus 90%. Because when the loss of confidence in fiat really takes hold, there's no way to bring it back except resetting the monetary system. So when you look again at a different way here, this is the S&P 500, more close in 1970 to today. Just the last three are really what would give you a context versus something back in 1870 when there wasn't such the centralization. The Fed hadn't even been formed in 1870 or even 1900. That didn't come until 1913, Jekyll Island. So to compare those two, like 1870 crash to a year 2000 crash, they're kind of incomparable. They're sort of same in the mechanisms, but when you want to compare apples to apples, you're going to look at these last three. Housing bubble, dot-com bubble, everything bubble. So we are so far over anything that has happened in your lifetime. If you're, say, 50 years old and you remember the crashes of yesteryear, this one is going to take down the house of cards, and it will be rebuilt with something else. And if you look at the price of gold adjusted for U.S. monetary supply since 1934, gold is dirt cheap. So imagine if it does ping up to something in the 1980s levels, that'll put gold at, what, $35,000 an ounce? Probably higher because there's more fiat, but you probably wouldn't want to trade your gold into fiat because the fiat's going to continue to devalue into Zimbabwe hyperinflation. It'll probably be 10 billion to 1 by the time this thing runs its course. Just gives you a gauge of what's possible, of what we've known through cycles of history so far. And speaking of cycles of history, let's go back long term, 11,000 years prior. Natural warming. You're responsible for it. We need more taxes. I wonder how this is going to fit into the collapse, your carbon allocations at the end, and what you'll have to pay just to stay alive in the new economy. This big yellow thing's changing. You live here. Got to deflect for the real reason that your food prices are rising and shall continue to rise indefinitely until the economy implodes in on itself. New system emerges, and you'll be responsible for the gases every breath you take. which is why it's super important to get some food ready. 3-month emergency food supply, 25-year shelf life. My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030. Give yourself the peace of mind knowing you have storable foods. And you could ride out some of these tumultuous times, because looking at the landscape here, hard to keep the economy together any longer. I think the higher level executives are going to string the game along here so they can get their bonuses just in through November, and then it's going to crash. Just my opinion. But I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.